Did you know every single film John Cazale ever appeared in was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards? That's not hyperbole, that's his entire filmography. 5 films, 5 nominations, and every single one a cornerstone of American cinema. Yet his career lasted barely 7 years, and by the time The Deer Hunter hit theatres, John Cazale was already gone. This is the story of an actor whose brilliance was matched only by the tragedy of his short life, and how he left behind what many call the perfect filmography. Let's fade to black. John Cazale was born on August 12, 1935, in Revere, Massachusetts. His father was an Italian-American, his mother of Irish descent, and he grew up in a working-class family during the tail end of the Great Depression. From an early age, John showed a quiet, almost shy sensitivity, something that would later become a defining trait of his acting. He attended Boston University's School of Fine Arts, majoring in drama. Friends and teachers remembered him as an intensely dedicated, always willing to dig deeper into character work than most of his peers. But Cazale wasn't chasing fame. Even early on, it was clear that he was motivated by the work itself, not the spotlight. After graduating, he moved to New York City, taking odd jobs, including working as a messenger while hustling for stage roles. One of those messenger jobs introduced him to another young struggling actor, Al Pacino. The two became fast friends, often auditioning together, often broke, but always talking about the craft. Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather isn't just one of the greatest films ever made, it's the cinematic big bang that launched John Cazale's career. Pacino, already cast as Michael Corleone, pushed for Cazale to read for Fredo, the middle Corleone brother. Coppola was flawed. Cazale brought a quiet, almost tragic humanity to a role that could have been easily overshadowed by giants like Marlon Brando and Al Pacino. Before we get to Fredo's unforgettable return in The Godfather Part II, if you're enjoying this deep dive, hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 10,000 subscribers before my birthday, and your click might just be the one that helps me get there. 2 years later, Cazale reprised the role of Fredo in Godfather Part II. This time, the role expanded, culminating in one of the most famous portrayals in cinema. Cazale's work was devastating. You felt Fredo's longing to matter, his shame and his doomed attempts to reclaim dignity. Fredo's betrayal of Michael isn't played with moustache-twirling villainy. Instead, it's rooted in hurt, jealousy, and the desperate need to be seen. The "I'm your older brother, Mike, and I was passed over" scene remains gut-wrenching. Not because of the betrayal itself, but because Cazale makes you feel every ounce of Fredo's pain. It's hard to think of another actor who could make you feel this much for someone who sold out his own family. Coppola later said Cazale never hit a false note. Everything he did was truthful. In 1974, Cazale appeared in another Coppola film, The Conversation, as Gene Hackman's assistant, Stan. In The Conversation, Coppola stripped away the grandeur of the Corleones and dropped us into a world of paranoia and surveillance. Gene Hackman may be the focus as wiretapping expert Harry Cole, but Cazale as his colleague Stan is the perfect counterpoint. More casual, more open, but just as compromised. The film's quiet, suffocating tension is heightened by Cazale's easy rapport with Hackman, giving the audience a glimpse of humanity before things spiral into obsession. It was nominated for 3 Oscars, including Best Picture, cementing Cazale's uncanny ability to pick projects that will go down in history. He doesn't have a mountain of screen time here, but his presence adds a lived-in authenticity. You really believe Stan exists. It's a smaller role, but his dynamic with Hackman adds warmth to an otherwise paranoid, chilly film. Once again, he made a supporting part feel lived in, giving the audience a fully fleshed out human being in just a handful of scenes. 1975 brought Dog Day Afternoon, reuniting Cazale with Pacino under director Sidney Lumet. Playing Sal, one of the real-life bank robbers, Cazale created a character both unsettling and oddly sympathetic. Much of his dialogue was improvised, including the chilling moment when Pacino asks what country he'd like to flee to, and Cazale, dead serious, replies, "Wyoming." Lumet called him one of the most instinctive actors he'd ever worked with. Sidney Lumet's Dog Day Afternoon gave Cazale his most unpredictable role. This is where Cazale's gift for subtlety became dangerous. You're never entirely sure what Sal might do next, and that's what makes him fascinating. The film was nominated for 6 Oscars and won for Best Original Screenplay. While Pacino's fiery performance dominates the headlines, Cazale's quiet menace lingers, reminding us that the scariest person in the room is sometimes the one who barely speaks. By the time The Deer Hunter went into production in 1978, Cazale was gravely ill with terminal lung cancer. The studio refused to insure him, fearing he wouldn't survive the shoot. They even considered recasting the role of Stan. But the cast rallied. Meryl Streep, Cazale's partner at the time, threatened to quit if he was removed. Rumours persist that other key actors were ready to walk too. Robert De Niro stepped in, offering to pay Cazale's insurance out of his own pocket. The studio relented. Cazale pushed through filming despite being visibly weak, determined to finish the work. He died on March 13, 1978, before The Deer Hunter was released. He never saw the final cut. Michael Cimino's The Deer Hunter would be Cazale's final film. Playing Stan, a brash, impulsive member of a tight-knit group of Pennsylvanian steelworkers, Cazale infuses the role with a restless energy that contrasts the film's deep emotional weight. You see a man overcompensating, always posturing, always deflecting, but underneath, there's insecurity and fear. His scenes with Meryl Streep, who was his partner at the time, carry an extra layer of poignancy. The Deer Hunter won 5 Oscars, including Best Picture, marking Cazale's 5th consecutive film with that honour, a record unmatched in Hollywood history. Knowing he was working against the clock gives his performance an almost defiant vitality. He refused to let illness diminish him on screen. Away from the set, John Cazale's life was profoundly shaped by his relationship with Meryl Streep. They met while performing Shakespeare in the Park, and the connection was immediate. Colleagues recall the two being inseparable, speaking in a shorthand that only people deeply in love seem to understand. When Cazale was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer in the late 1970s, Streep refused to leave his side. She took every role she could near New York so she could be with him, even signing on to The Deer Hunter, partly to make sure he stayed employed through his illness. Co-stars remember how tenderly she cared for him between takes, sometimes running lines with him while holding his hand. Al Pacino later said, "I've hardly ever seen a person so devoted to someone who's falling away like John was." Streep was there in the hospital when he passed in March 1978, just months before The Deer Hunter's release. She later described him not just as the love of her life at that time, but as one of the great actors and great souls she had ever known. That bond and the grace with which they faced the end together remains one of Hollywood's most moving love stories. John Cazale's career spanned just 6 years and 5 films, and every single one was nominated for Best Picture. It's a record that no other actor has matched, but more than that, it's a testament to his uncanny instinct for choosing projects of real substance. He was never the loudest presence on screen, but his performances had a way of lingering. The fragile dignity of Fredo, the unpredictable danger of Sal, and the restless bravado of Stan. For the friends and collaborators he left behind, his absence was felt as keenly off-camera as it was on. To quote Blade Runner, "The candle that burns twice as bright burns half as long," and in Cazale's case, that light burned with an intensity few could match. Thanks to those 5 films, and the love and loyalty that defined his life, John Cazale's artistry will always have a place in cinema history. In just 7 years, he left behind a legacy that most actors could only dream of. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, there's plenty more in the What the Hell Happened To series. Until next time, here's to the ones who burn bright, however briefly. I really do look forward to seeing you all in the next one.